Please be seated. Although of Baptist background, I don't think you want to stand through a whole sermon from me. It's a great joy to worship with you this morning. I'm grateful for the deep bonds that our seminary has with your church. We send you good people like Craig Lemming, like Marjorie Grievous, like Andrew Fox, like Bundy Trentz, and others. Grateful to claim these people who are alums and employees and friends. Grateful to be with you. My deepest acquaintance with Episcopal life was when I was a student at Cambridge and studied with that erstwhile radical bishop, John A.T. Robinson. I've been drifting left ever since. Thanks be to God. Each of the lessons for today centers on teaching and learning as we honor this venerable deaconess of the Episcopal Church. Recently, we had a faculty retreat at United, and we were asked to tell about a formative moment that led us to the vocation of being a professor. To a person, everyone mentioned a teacher. Elementary school, junior high, high school, baccalaureate, graduate, it was a teacher, a professor, who had sparked something in each of us to call us to the vocation. We honor such a person today, a teacher, but also a learner, which is the humility to which Christ continues to call us. The Deuteronomy text, the Shema, starts with the word hear. And of course, we know that a learning and teaching begin with a deep listening, a summons to the worship of God, a summons to ask the right questions. Psalm 78 is a very long wisdom psalm. The choir would still be going had we done the whole of it. It notes what occurs when humans ignore wise teaching. It's a terrible cycle, narrating a cycle of sin, punishment, repentance, deliverance. The psalmist implores God, restore this wayward people who has ignored wise teaching. The psalmist sums it up by saying, let your face shine, be kind to us, that we might be saved. Of course, the epistle lesson is one well worn as we think about studying to show ourselves approved unto God, a worker who needs not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And then to the gospel. The lovely invitation Jesus offers comes after a long chapter of examples of people who didn't get it, who didn't know who was in their midst. Not John the Baptist, who baptized him, not the communities where Jesus preached, not the scholars, only the little ones, only the humble, only the receptive. It was to those who knew their need that revelation came. We can almost hear the soaring aria from the Messiah, "Come unto me, all you who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Matthew does an interesting thing in the way that he presents who Jesus is. Jesus is a new Moses. Even the structure of the Gospel of Matthew is laid out in 5 sections, like the giving of Torah. Jesus not only fulfills the law and the prophets, but he embodies wisdom, and they are to listen to him. Jesus invites his followers, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me." Now, they were already wearing a yoke. They were already burdened by a horribly unjust taxing system by the Roman occupation. They were burdened by religious obligation that was tithing mint and cumin and ignoring the weightier matters. It was a burdensome time. And yoke actually in Jewish history meant a sign of servitude. And so for Jesus to say, "Take my yoke upon you," is a liberative summons. Take my yoke, which fits perfectly and will provide rest for your souls. Now, Sabbath, which rest implies, was a very anti-imperial notion. It disrupted the rhythms of relentless work. And to practice Sabbath, which he is offering, is a way of saying it does not all depend upon me. I love the poem by Wendell Berry entitled Sabbaths, where he says, "And the field is tilled and left to grace. I've done what I can do. I do not have to do it all." One is not saved by one's own deeds. Rest, ceasing from labor, offered to the little ones who know their need of such. How might we adapt this wonderful invitation for our time? We too are burdened by oppressive systems. Try navigating the healthcare system. We are exhausted by political processes. You may be counting down the days as I am. Oh yes, we are exhausted by such the cycle of news that comes, processes that cannot bend quickly enough toward justice. We need rest from the breathless announcements of yet more shootings, bombings, floodings, etc. Much as I like, we'll sleep when we're dead, it's not realistic. We need some rest now, too. Can Jesus really intrude into this reality and ease our burden? This is an invitation to say yes to him and to receive a yoke that fits a bit more lightly, that invites us to humility, not having to be right all the time, not having to labor ceaselessly in order to prove we are of worth. Humility is the great virtue, according to the Ammas and the Abbas, the great desert monastics. Expressions of this humility are how well we learn to listen to others, how willing we are to forgive, to let go of those things we cling to in order to feel better than others, how willing we are to decenter ourselves as we think about the needs of others. Humility is the yoke that Jesus offers. It is a good thing that we celebrate Deaconess Butler Alexander today. If you don't know her story, read it. I did not until I realized that you would be celebrating this saint of the Episcopal Church today. She taught primarily in Georgia during those awful years after the Civil War, those Reconstruction years, which certainly benefited some more than others. Hers was a selfless, humble ministry, walking, raising money for others, bringing the gift of literacy as she sought equality. Thankfully, the churches of Georgia recognized her teaching ministry, named her a deaconess, and later the Episcopal Diocese of Georgia named her a saint. We rightly honor her as she labored in the school of Christ, the same school to which we are invited. She offered her life, and she leaves graceful footprints as she took upon her the yoke of Christ. And we receive the same invitation. Thanks be to God.